Hello, beautifuls. This is Atleen, and I'm coming to you with another video. And in this video, we will be discussing virtual servers. We did do virtual servers yesterday. Today is part two. So basically, the pieces and parts that make up the network is virtualization, and virtualization has drastically changed the world over the past 10 years or so. When it comes to networking, it's a great thing to avoid wasting resources within the enterprise, um, power resources, and keeping all the servers up to date. Just for example, say a college of finance may only be using 4% of hard drive capacity, which is basically an example of having a dedicated server for each college. So it's a great thing that we can now have a powerful server with lots of resources that can virtualize all those individual servers that used to be on their own box. We can put them in a virtual machine, also known as a VM, and run them on one physical box. So doing this will give a corporation great cost savings. We don't have to keep buying multiple servers, and as well as just basically just not wasting any money, which is good for the enterprise, like I mentioned earlier. And it's going to make upgrades easier because we don't have to do a patch to an operating system, an OS, on a bunch of different servers. Maybe just a firmware patch on that server. We may have to patch individual operating systems. And yes, so it will be a great cost and time saver. It's just not gonna take up as much room in your data center, in the enterprise's data center. And it makes it possible. And what makes that possible is the server that has a virtual machine sitting on top of the operating system. So there is running software called hypervisor. And that's a good terminology to learn to understand the concept of virtual server is hypervisor. Software that can create, start, stop, monitor multiple virtual machines. And there's two types. Type 1, native, or it's called a bare metal, runs directly on the hardware. And type 2 is hosted, runs in a traditional operating system. And I'm getting this out of Windows Odom, CCNA 200-301, Volume 2. This is the area that we're reading right now, that we're going over. So type 1 hypervisor is often called bare metal. So in other words, you're booting up the server for the first time and you have a flash drive or DVD or something in it, some media for it to boot on. And instead of booting off of Microsoft Windows, it's on your flash drive, you're booting off of something like VMware EXI, which is a hypervisor software. So the hypervisor software is what we do do for the initial installation. Then sitting on top of that, we do our virtual machines. You can run you can run not just virtual servers, but you can run switches, routers, and firewalls. All kinds of network components can be virtualized. And by the way, hosted type 2 can be run with Mac OS and can use VM Fusion And that's on Mac, like I just stated, Mac. And for Microsoft Windows, we always use VirtualBox, which is free. And that's for Microsoft Windows, which is running on top of the operating system. So when we virtualize a server, some people may ask, okay, so we may think it's not a real server. How do we plug it in? How do we plug it in? And plug it in somewhere. Well, the virtualized server, we can have multiple NIC, network interface cards. And these virtual network interface cards, you can say where they go. So you can have this virtual switch that's defined inside your physical machine that's running something like the EXI. And you can say also, oh, well, I want to plug it in to switch 1 or switch 2, and then then it goes out to one of the physical network interface cards on the server itself to get out to the rest of the world. So that's amazing. That's amazing how now we have the virtual servers that makes it a lot better for the enterprise and it's cost effective. As you can see, I have a virtualization topology here or diagram. And in a virtual NIC is defined as software associated with a unique MAC address which can be used by a virtual machine, a VM, virtual machine, VM, to send and receive packets. A virtual switch, software that can connect to other virtual switches, virtual NICs, network interface cards, and to a physical network interface card. So you can have this virtual switch that's defined inside your physical machine that's running something like EXI. And you can say, oh, I want to plug it in to the switch 1 or switch 2. And then switch 1 or switch 2, it goes out to one of the physical network interface cards on the server itself to get out into the rest of the world. So it's amazing what we can virtualize, not just servers, but we can also virtualize routers, switches, firewalls. So there's lots of things that we can do to load balance. Load balance. A lot of people are migrating to the cloud where you can have your resources, those physical sources you can run EXI that can be loaded into the cloud, and it doesn't just have to be physical. This is a cloud provider. And this is the enterprise cloud provider router, virtual firewall, virtual router, cloud providers, virtual switch, load balance, the virtual machines 1, 2, and 3. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I wish you well.